Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. It's Montez from itsmontez.com, and I've got a very special interview for you today. We're going to be speaking with Klarque Garrison. But before we get into exactly what he's going to be speaking about, I've got a couple key things that I need you to do. Of course, I need you to click that bell. If you click that bell, you're going to get all the notifications, and you'll know whenever I'm doing live shows or whenever I have new uploads. And that's very important. Second thing I need you to do is be sure to comment inside the comment box, because this is very vital for us to find out what you think about the interview and what you're really taking outside of these interviews, and how we can better conduct the interview or questions or whatever. This is very important for me and the interviewer on the channel, so they can get the feedback and things that they need. The third thing I need you to do is share this film. Share this film with other people, because, again, one person seeing this film, we need lots of people seeing the film so we can get as much feedback from the film as we can. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Klarque and what I know about him and what I found so interesting about him. And then after I get done with that, I'm going to go ahead and let him come in and tell us a little bit more about what it is that he does and what he really enjoys doing inside of his life. This is what caught me on to him. When I was on Twitter, I had seen this. I love media. I am media. I've become media, and I need you to help me drive media. This was his bio, and it was just like so shocking to me. I was just like, wow, this so relates with me. And so I reached out to him, and I wanted him to come onto the show and talk to us a little bit about what it is that he does. I'm not going to tell you what he does. He's going to do that. And without further ado, Klarque, thank you for being here.
Hey, sir. Thank you for having me.
You're very, very welcome. Klarque, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, you read it, man. I'm media. I everything I do. The reason I put that on there is funny. I recently changed that a couple of months ago because I was looking at what I had before, and I was trying to be diverse, right? So I had that I was an author, I was a radio show personality, a host, of this, of that, and I realized at the core of all of everything that I do, as I look around each and every day, that whatever I'm trying to achieve is really about pushing the envelope in media. It's specifically independent media, which is love of my life, right? Because it's freeing, it's transparent, it's real, it's what commercial or mainstream media used to be 70 years ago. It's authentic and it's truthful. And so I really wanted to, looking at that, I said, you know what, how can I best get someone's attention? You talk about elevator speeches, right?
Right.
I said, screw the elevator speech. I'm just going to tell you exactly what I love, what I'm passionate about, and what I do all the time. And if you want to perhaps get on and partner up with me or collaborate with me, then here's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be pushing the envelope for media. I started out as I wrote a book back in 2009, and I was thinking about how best to move that book along. And my good friend, Kimberly Morrison, who at that time was my manager, said to me, why don't you try this new thing called online radio? And that really started everything for me.
Oh, I see. Online radio. You heard online radio, then click. Just all of a sudden it was like, boom.
Well, I didn't know what it was. I'd never heard of it. I mean, I kind of knew from a technical standpoint. Obviously, it's online, and it must be something similar to radio. But I'd never really done it, watched it, listened to it, or anything like that. So when she introduced it to me originally, the only thing I was focused on is how can I get my book out to more people. That was it. You know, and if this was a platform, I'm in, because I knew what I didn't want to do is the more conventional route of book fairs, going from city to city, spending a lot of money, hoping you sell enough books. I figured that was going to be pretty pretty hard to do.
Hazardous, right?
There you go. I figured it was going to be pretty hard to do because, one, I was not a household name. So people weren't going to just flock and buy 1,000 books just because I showed up to the book fair.
Right.
So I felt like this project or this idea that she had would work for me. So we tried.
Yeah. So when you were getting into internet, they're saying internet radio, were you previously already on the internet? Were you already doing things on the internet? Or was this really like your first rodeo?
Not at all. In fact, I was transitioning to another career. I had been in real estate for 16 years prior to that, and the market was tanking in 2007 and 8. And really, the book was my therapy. The book became what I did between the time when the market crashed and now. So it was kind of a wake-up call for myself, and a couple of friends of mine read the transcript and said, dude, you got to get this out in the market because other people were suffering or going through the same kinds of roller coaster rides. And I said, okay, let's try it out. And I did a couple of test drives here in the city where I am in Atlanta. And at that point, it got some pretty good reviews. And people outside of my mother liked it. So I was like, hey, okay, I expect her to like it. If other people like, great. And I said, let's push the envelope. And we wanted to get it to more people around the United States. And that, there again, this brings us back to internet radio.
There it goes. Because then again, with the internet, it's so massive. So like you're coming with the radio, and it's getting to the point like, all right, I know that internet radio is where I want to go. Now, how did you come up with where you're going to broadcast the stream or wherever you're going to go? Because again, there's so many different angles, so many different options. I know that there had to be key people inside your corner right now that are helping and motivating you. Could you tell us a little bit about what's going on?
So your question is, why did I decide for BTR to be my home at that time?
Right. No, like, so you're finding out, is it going to be Blog Talk Radio? Is it going to be a different platform?
Sure.
Is it going to be live stream YouTube? So you're going through these processes and you're having someone talk to you about, hey, this your mentor, if you will. Someone giving you better advice. What's going on? Who are some of the people that are giving you advice, and what led you to the point of saying, all right, I'm going to go through Blog Talk instead of saying live YouTube or streaming live on a different broadcast or whatever? What made you say Blog Talk Radio?
Well, here's the thing. What got me on BTR at that time was really just trusting in Kimberly, my good friend, and that she would steer me in the right way. She had done a lot of the back end research on finding what's the difference between the platforms, what she felt like would be, at the time, I think what we focused most on would be the easiest platform to get on with the least amount of money and the least amount of equipment, because I didn't know if I would stay in that business. So I didn't want to go spending $1,500 for all of this radio equipment and I'd be out of it in 3 months. So we found that to be a very accessible platform at the time. Now, keep in mind, this is 2009. There are so many more platforms now than it was then. Back then, I want to say we may have looked at 3, and the other 2 are out of business now. So we saw BTR as a rising. I know, right?
Better end of that. You got the better end of the stick, huh?
I picked lucky, and the thing is, that's what got me on. What kept me there is because I saw this platform. One, I saw it growing. I mean, just a natural. You saw people kind of migrating there for whatever reason. People were migrating there, so I felt like I might be in the right place. But then when I saw their dedication to expanding and getting better, it's one thing to be on a platform that works and you outgrow it, which many people do, especially on websites or platforms like that. But this particular site kept growing with us. So as it got bigger, you could see that they were spending money internally to get bigger, better, to reach more people, to help us be more accessible. And that's what kept me on there. I saw that, man, 5 years from now, this is going to be the place to be. And ironically, they are the largest online platform right now for online radio. So as you said, I chose wisely.
Yeah, absolutely. So the name, though, Survival Radio Network, how did that come about? Was it something that was dawned on you, or something gave you in life? You're like, oh, this is what I'm going to name it, or how did that come about?
No trick at all. I wrote the book I was talking about is How to Survive the Next 365, and so more from a branding point of view, I wanted to stay in that realm since I was pushing at least at the beginning. Those first, I guess, 7 or 8, 9, 10 shows were about the book. So I felt like let's name it something similar, right? So we called it the Survival Radio Network, and it felt like at the time it was based on the book. But then I had an aha moment a year later and said, you know what, this is really, I'm glad I did that, because I want to bring on other people that talk about the baseline principles and ideologies we all need to subscribe to in order to succeed. You know, people always want to know, how do I thrive? How do I get better? How I become successful? And all of these things, business life, health, wellness, you name it. But rarely do we take the time to think about what do we need at the core. There has to be a center point inside you where all of this grows from. And if you can develop that core, then you can do just about anything you want. You can lose weight when you want to. If you've got a solid fundamental self-awareness core, then you can, you know, start a new business and not quit after 6 months. You could get a new job and feel comfortable even moving to a new state. And so that's kind of where the premise of that stuck with me, and it's been called that ever since. So
now, so when you talk about, love the apparel. Now, is there anywhere you can go and buy the apparel, or is
on the website? We've got all of our t-shirts, hats, mugs, you know, the whole nine. We've got it all on the website.
Very nice. Now, as far as looking into seeing, you know, the work ethic, seeing the things like this, and having to go down these different lines and working the three, how to be successful in 365. Is that what it was you said?
How to survive the next 365. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how to survive the next 365. Now, when you're looking in this kind of thinking and this kind of thought process, now, where did yours come from? Was always there? Did someone else influence it? If so, who?
And we're talking about the principles of the book, right?
Right, the principles, yes.
No, you know, it's funny. All of them, there's nothing in the book that is new, okay? There's absolutely not one of the 12 principles, and I actually wrote like 27 principles, but I narrowed it down to 12 that really, really resonated with me as I was going through my hills and valleys. What I needed to, and it just so happened, like, again, I said, let's share this with other people and perhaps they can relate to it. But I was taught this stuff. I knew it. But what happens when we become successful, man, we start reading our own press clippings, right? So we think that the way we got successful was because of our grandeur and, you know, my ability to think, and I was just in the right place at the right time, or I deserve it, right? I absolutely deserve it because I worked hard like no one else ever works hard. So the book and those principles kind of reminded me that, you know, look, you knew this stuff. You just forgot about it and stopped applying it to your life. So really, again, nothing is new, but we go back and take a look at that stuff or those 12 ideologies that I feel like we really need to be, it needs to be at our core at all times. So now I challenge myself all year long on, am I following those guidelines, right? Because without this core, SRN isn't going to be successful. Surge TV, which I'm just starting in its 5th month, will not be successful if I delineate from that path again. I'll be in the same place I was in 2009, 8, 7, you know.
I see.
It was not a good place.
So it's like a self-evaluation kind of thing, or?
Yeah, and it's constant. It's not, you know, quarterly. It's not at the end of the week. it's literally every morning self-evaluating a part of that. You know, there's always things that we're great at. Even with the book, I tell people don't read it from cover to cover, because there are going to be things that you'll look in chapter 1, you're like, I got this, I do this well. But look at it as looking through the syllabus and just figuring out what am I weakest at and working on that, you know? So it really is a way to do that on a day-to-day, second-to-second level.
All right, so tell me a little bit about the beginning of the growth. Like, so you're going through you got the name, you got the idea, you're starting to stream on Blog Talk Radio, you're looking for listeners, the listeners coming quickly. Give me a rundown. What's going on?
Absolutely not. But here's I give, man, where would I be without this guy, a guy named Michael McFadden, who's still in radio, still my mentor, and doing some fabulous things out there in morning time radio. Has one of the best morning time shows out. And he told me something that really resonated as I'm finally, this brother comes, and back then, not a lot of people wanted to help you. So here's this guy, who's younger than me, who's like, listen, young pup, here's how it goes. And I'm like, got my ears, like, I really want more listeners. I want to be big. I want to be great at this. And his advice was be consistent. And I'm like, what? That's it? Give me something else to go with. And he's like, this is a marathon. This is not a race. And that advice helped me really relax and just kind of calm down. And because I used to worry about how many listeners did I have this week, this second, this night. And I realized that was driving me crazy. And you know what? There are a lot of things you can do to get listeners, and we talk about that. But sometimes it's just about being consistent. And so once I pulled back the reins, it became a lot easier to do radio, because then it was like I wanted to just have fun. I didn't care if anybody listened, to be honest with you. So yeah, in the beginning, it was rough. It was, you get your parents, you get your friends, and then they usually die away around month 3. All of your close friends, they the nuance is gone. They're like, okay, still doing it, whatever, and they go away. But what happens after that, you've kind of built something, right? Something goes out in the universe, and what comes back is people who actually resonate with what you're talking about, whether it be your topic, whether it be just you. Sometimes in radio, that's why they call it radio personalities. Sometimes it's just about you. And in this case, I think a lot of it was about just me, and me just being blatantly honest and transparent about my life at that time. Other people who was going through that was like, dude, yeah, I get what he's talking about, because I'm in the same boat. I got put out of my house just like he did, or, I lost all my money just like he did. And, I was, contemplating jumping off a bridge just like he was. And so you get these people over time that just stick. And then again, I wasn't worried about who was listening to my show. But every now and then you bump into someone at the market or at an event, and they'd say, hey, I listened to your show and it was great because you had all, and that, man, listen, one person does that a day and you're good, right? You don't care if who's listening, you're good. And so that was the evolution. In the first couple of years, I didn't have a lot of people, but I had consistency. I showed up. At that time, I was doing 2 shows a week, Sunday at 4 p.m., and Wednesday at 7 p.m. And I showed up every single day. I did not miss, and I followed the advice of Michael, and I was consistent.
Well, you know what? That's what I think a big thing is now. Like within YouTube, I get lots of questions, lots of people. I spoke with John Pounders. He runs Now You See TV, very influential person, and he does a whole lot of Torah teaching and things like that, of the Torah. And I was asking him, because I started my channel about a year ago, on how I could get further in growth, on how I could get better into things. And so me and him started a show together, get this knowledge, and he would give us tips, and he would give me tips, because at the same time I'm being taught too, Right. So I think whenever I was asking these questions inside the interview, I'm showing my authenticity, really, literally. Right. I don't understand. I'm trying to learn, and I think that the viewers also got to get that inside of me, to really instill that within me. But I think, like you said, the whole when you're growing your channel, consistency, because then we spoke with another guy that he works with. His name is John as well, and he's the co-host of Now You See TV as well. But he also said consistency, And I think this is what it is. It's like this. Is it if you go to the mailbox looking for your newspaper, it's been there every Monday, and all of a sudden it's not there. People start to fall out, and I think that's what it is with like what you're doing. I see now 400,000 listeners you have right now.
Well, on the station or my show? You're talking about
on
the station.
The station.
Yeah, we currently have 1.7 million.
Oh my goodness gracious! And that's over how long now?
Since the actual station, my show started in 2009. The station came about in 2012. So a little over 4 years now.
Now for the show then, and for you doing the show, I guess, is that 3 years then for the show or 2?
Prior to that, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, about 3.5 years prior to me starting the actual network. It was just my show alone.
Now, within the ideas inside the show, are the people helping you dress this up? What's giving you the all right, this is my next idea that I'm going to go with. This is what I'm going to do next. What's giving you the insight? Is it something that's been sitting on your back for a while? These newfound ideas? What is it? So
yeah, it really is just me sitting on Monday saying, "What's up with you? What do you want to know? What do you want to talk about?" What's really cool is we all want to have a platform deep down inside, and I get to have that. I get to have that voice, whether it's the election that's coming up and I disagree with all the candidates, or if I see something from a point of view that perhaps is not being spoken much on mainstream media, I get to say that point. A lot of it is based on, as I go through and book these shows, it's just really the content or people that I find interesting. And if you think about it, I always tell people, if you got a problem booking shows, there's something wrong with you. Because in today's social media atmosphere, listen, I haven't even gotten through, and I've been doing this since 2009, like I said, I haven't gotten through my entire Facebook, friends and associate of friends and people who I find out there collectively. I haven't even gotten through them as far as getting people booked that I pencil into my head is like, hey, I got to swing back by and have him on my show or her on my show because of what they're doing. And God knows I can go to Twitter and be out there for, another decade just playing around. Because, you find people and you're like, God, that's really interesting. How are they doing? What they just said is an interesting point of view. I'd love to flesh that out for 30 minutes on my show. So that's what I do, man. I scour social media and just jot down people that I find interesting. And then I kind of follow them, make sure they got websites or they're doing what they actually say they're doing. And then I invite them to come and let's talk about what you're great at. And the one cool thing about radio and just having a platform like this and like yours, Montez, is that you get to ask people to come on your show and talk about what they're passionate about. Who's going to turn that down?
Right.
You're not asking them for money. You're not asking them to, buy this or loan me this or, hey, teach me this. You're saying, look, just come on and talk about what you're great at. How do you get a no out of that? So that's what I get to do each week. And it's a blast. And in the beginning, it was just me. I was the engineer, producer, the booker, the sales guy. I formatted the shows.
It's all by yourself then.
Yeah, everything, right? Because, one, I needed to know how to do it. Two, I didn't have the budget to have anybody else to do it for me. And so I learned all those things. And now I've got a co-host. She gives a lot of input as far as what's interesting in her world as well. And we just kind of sit down early that week and put it together. But yeah, that's the method of my madness.
That's what Power Trap Raymond Losky always says. You find him on Twitter, Power Trap. There is a method to the madness, and a lot of people, I don't think they find out that there is one. But I'm starting to find out that sleep is very important. I've been dealing with sickness, and being sick is very hard on your body, and I've been finding out more sleep will keep you healthier. Now, as far as going through radio and consistency, now that's one thing I wanted to ask you about. What do you do when you're just like underneath the weather and you're like, you can't talk, you can't do, what do you do to get over these situations to still remain consistent?
So I suck it up, to be honest with you, because here's the thing. So I'm an entrepreneur at heart, right? And what the best thing that I've ever learned about being an entrepreneur, like literally since 1999, so all of the 2000s, I've worked for myself, is that if you don't do it, no one else will. If you don't go out and hunt, you won't eat.
There you
Okay,
go.
so the world could care less if I'm sick, I've got a bad day. I can't clock in like, 9 to 5 people and, I'll take off and, I'll get my check on Friday. I can't do that. So the discipline that takes to say, you know what, I don't feel great, but I've got to figure out to move the needle forward a little bit. When I don't feel great, I don't do a lot of work, but I do some work. Even if I'm in bed or if I got to make a couple of calls or I got to shoot that email that I promised I'm going to do, stuff gets done, right? No matter what. So I guess that mentality has rolled over into this world where it's like, dude, it's 7 o'clock Wednesday night. You got to show up. No one cares about you got a cold or your voice hurts or you had a bad day or, your car broke down on 285 and you had to get it. No one cares about that. And I really look at it that way because we do that for other people, right? If I had a job, I'd be killing myself every day to get to that person's job, right?
Right.
I mean, I'd be doing some crazy stuff. I'd be, you have people call on the phone and pretend like they're sick and go through all these machinations and just because you don't want to let them down or scare, whatever that is. So I take that serious about my own self, like, right? So I'm the boss. You need to show up, unless you're dead. If you're dead, then obviously we'll work on that part.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, is this I guess this aura about you, is this inside your family? Is this are you the only one inside the family that's been the entrepreneur? Or are you the only one or do you have brothers, sisters, or mother, father that kind of put you in this kind of perspective that said, hey, look, you can make your own path? Or how was that about?
Absolutely not, man. Well, I'll say this. My dad was a musician, so I guess in a sort he was out of the box, right? He didn't sit down and do 9 to 5 every day, but he that wasn't really, to be honest, that wasn't really my mentality. What drove me to that is I think I was just innately not good at 9 to 5. I just was the guy. If you hired me, I'm like an 8 type personality. So if you hired me, I'm gonna probably piss you off. Excuse me. Hopefully I can say that. But I'm going to make you upset because I'm going to point out things that, we could do it better if we did that. And,
Right.
and honestly, I gotten fired so many times for being that guy because no one likes that guy because they're like, look, either he wants my job or he's a pain in the butt and he won't follow suit. So I just have not been a great, I guess people don't get that. Like if I'm going to do it, if you're going to hire me to mop, I'm going to mop, right? The floor is going to be, I'm sweeping, I'm moving all the furniture, I'm moving, so that's just the kind of guy I am. And so I just never fit in that conformity of a 9 to 5. I wanted to. I went to college. I thought that was going to be my journey. And when I got out, it never transpired that way.
What'd you go to college for? What'd you go to college for? I'm sorry.
Oh, math. I believe it or not, don't ask me what I was going to do with that. I just simply, I got there and I was wandering around so many years. It was like, dude, you got to get out. And I just so happened to have enough math credits. They're like, all right, that's it, go. And so I did. But I didn't even do anything. The first job I got out of college, I modeled for 7 years.
Well, there you go.
Down in South Beach in Miami. So yeah, go figure. Where did that come from, right?
Yeah.
And I got that taste of just, being on my own and making, I had to do certain things to get paid. And I like that. I like the control. It's scary sometimes because, you're like, dude, the rent's due and you don't have any money, but I could get up and try to go get it, right? Absolutely. Or try to make it. And I like that power. And so I've never given it up.
I can dig that. I can totally dig that. I think I also too have that want to. I think I like looking for my interviews. I know some people, they say, which again, we're like, hey, why would they say no? But again, I guess sometimes within people, their times and things that they're doing. But looking for the interview is a lot of fun for me because I get to look and get kind of personal into what someone else is doing. Like I like going underneath and really diving down inside what's going on. And I've always enjoyed the work inside of things. It seems like you do too. You just like the work ethic of things. You just like to see how it pieces together or what not to do or what to do. So failure-wise, you dealt with it a lot, or is this something that you've dealt with it like falling and getting back up, or this kind of thing?
Oh yeah, you listen. I work hard enough to fail. I want to. That's to me. I read something a long time ago. Basically, people learn from their failures, not their successes, and so that really stuck to me. And so I consistently. It's like I don't stop until I've failed. Like I hit a point where it doesn't work and I can't go any further, or someone shuts me all the way down, and I'm like, okay, I've gotten to a good point now. So if I'm doing my day to day and everything is just going the way it should and life is just perfect, then I know something's wrong because I'm not learning anything, I'm not gaining anything, and I just keep fighting through it. It's weird because people will say, well, you need to stop and smell the roses. Well, I do that. I just do it at my failures. So when I hit that roadblock, or if I'm trying to get this thing booked by Wednesday and this person is telling me either no or they're giving me the runaround, I'm like, okay, great. I can learn something now. I can learn how do I navigate this, or how do I change pace and find somebody to replace them, or whatever the hiccup may be, or hill I got across. I love that, man. I know it's sadistic, but I actually love that stuff when life really slaps me in the face and challenges me to be a better person, be a better version of myself.
Within radio, what would you say would be the biggest challenge that you've had so far?
Wow, that's a great question, Montez. You do it for the living, I see. The biggest challenge is monetizing the show. That was when I realized that it was great doing it, be even better. Just not so much so I can make money and go buy a car, but so I can make money to put back into the show, get an engineer, get a producer, be able to go live remotes and do some other things. And I knew I had to do the one thing that I'm horrible at, which is sale. So I'm great at closing. I'm like the guy that comes in and closes the door and you're like, wow, how'd you get him to do that?
Right.
But
right.
I'm not the person that knock on your door. I'm not that guy. Okay. So I always had a pushback on doing that. And because I wasn't good at it, I've tried 1,000 things. And to be honest with you, Montez, I'm still not great at it. I'm okay. But here's what happens when I rely for myself. I'll make the money I have to, and then I stop because I'm like, okay, that was too painful. I'm done. I should, in a perfect world, perfect utopia, keep going even through that so that I can keep that revenue even growing bigger and bigger and bigger. I tend to just get the revenue that I need to cover all the things that I've got to do, and then I kind of push back and say, okay, that's enough. That's the hardest thing for me in radio, period, hands down, for my show and for the station. And so I'm still working on that element of it. How do I just say, you know what, listen, we just got to rock and roll 24/7 in that aspect of it.
Now, how exactly, I spoke with a couple people that do blog talk radio, but I never really understood how the monetization goes about. Is it similar to YouTube? Could you give us a little quick rundown on that?
So it's 100, listen, all right, so understand what BTR is. It is just a platform you buy time from. Are you there?
I'm here. I'm here.
I'm just going to keep going. So it's a platform that you just buy time from. Much like if I was in terrestrial radio, my station would be buying time from CBS Radio 1 or one of those bigger outlets, right? So right. If you look at it from there, all they do really is give you that time slot. It's up to you to develop your show or your network or your station. So how you make money is really, at best, it's how whatever creativity in your mind that comes up. Now, we're much like traditional radio in the sense of some of the economics where we do 30 and 60-second commercial slots. They're totally developed differently because online radio then gets split into what's called a podcast, which then goes over and over and over and over. So it's kind of, you pay for something once and you get the residual from it forever unless they shut down the internet. So we had to look at it from a different aspect. You're not buying blocks of live air like terrestrial radio would. 16 slots on this week at this time. That's not really how we function. But that's a part of the revenue stream that we do. Another part would be something, and I hate people who do this, but they actually, people pay to be on their show. And I think that's a horrible machination. But I do know people who sell their time slots.
Give us the reasons for why you think it's horrible. I just would love to go inside of that. Like I would love to. I'd love to expound on that. Why is it horrible for someone to pay a stipend to be on the show?
I look at that as you're asking a person to come on and talk about their something that they're great at, whether it be a musician, a singer, a life coach, you name it, whatever it is. You're looking for them to come on and provide content.
Right.
It seems to me kind of counterintuitive that I'm going to make you pay for content when I'm in a content business, right? Business of what I do is people are no longer tuning in to hear Klarque. Trust me on that. That died out in about 2010. They're tuning in because they know Klarque has some really great guests, okay? And so for me to charge you to give me content, I just don't have the stomach for it. I really think, what happens is people wind up resenting you because maybe, look, if I charge you to come on and you didn't get what you thought was a proper return, and who knows what that is, right? Maybe it's I didn't get 30 books sold this week because I came on your show and you promised I would, be in front of 1.7 million listeners. Well, I did, but I didn't promise you they'd like your book, right? So you start getting into that. People start having resentment and saying, hey, don't go on that guy's show. He's a crook.
Right.
Not because your show wasn't great, but because they had a perception of value. Once I charged them, then there's a value for that. And I don't know what their value would be because they're not going to tell me. They're just going to come on the show and they're going to be a little pissy because they're like, well, this and that. And so I escaped that whole realm and said, listen, come on my show for free. Let's talk about everything you're great at. And then what I do is I leverage their greatness to a sponsor. So if I've got Les Brown coming on to talk about his new upcoming web series he's got that's coming out that's fabulous and everybody loves Les Brown, then I'd much rather go over here and say, hey, I've got Les Brown on. You should really run some commercials during the show because everybody loves Les and they're going to be on. They're going to be listening.
Right.
To me, that makes more sense because now the perceived value is Les Brown. It's not Klarque, it's Les. And you can get into that. And there's no disappointment in that.
Ooh, very good. Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you all got a big bite of that one. Because if that didn't fill you up, I don't know what will. We're definitely going to get further into this interview. So we're going to get back onto the radio. So you're going through this. You got it set up. You got the platform. You got your hosts that are going to be helping you out with the show and things like that. The hardest thing, again, that you said to do radio is monetization and getting monetization added onto it. You get through all these different things that are going in. Is there any smooth sailing? Is there anything that's ever just smooth once you get all comfortable, like to the state to where you're at now? Is there any kind of, or is it still like this, or is it, how is it?
So we try our best, and I think most people in radio will try their best to put a system in place for continuity. And so because, when you've got people listening in, people are most comfortable with continuity and things that feel comfortable with them. So when they come to your show, there's an expectation that this is going to happen. Now, you can do it in different times and different variables, but they want to get the same feeling after leaving your show. And that's just human nature, right? That's why you go to the movies, because you're sitting in there for $6 to $12, depending on where you are in the country, maybe even more. I don't know what New York is charging nowadays, but you're sitting in there for the type of experience in the dark looking at something. And if you don't get that, then you're kind of, upset about it. So I do try to create a system that's going to be consistent, and it creates somewhat of a smooth sail. However, this is radio. And I know, because I've done it long enough, that every show I do, and now I only do a 7 p.m. show because I'm running the station, but I do it every Wednesday, I know something's going to go wrong. All right? There's never been a show where I've lined up dot the I's, cross the T's, and everything's down the mat where everything is going to flow perfectly. They're going to come in, they're going to call in too late, too early, and be mad. The phone is going to drop. My engineer is going to have a cold and I've got to replace him for that night right before the show, or his technology is going to go out, or my co-host is going to, hurt. It's something. And so what's really cool about that, though, is your ability to not spaz out, but to understand it's coming and deal with it. And deal with it in a way that the listener has no clue that it happened. And that, to me, is why I keep doing it. If it was the same thing, all smooth, I would be bored out of my mind by now, and I would be on to something else. But that's why I love radio. It's always something. And sometimes that something is great. It's not always bad. I remember one interview I was doing it, and I can't even remember the person because it was so long ago, but I remember the experience. I was talking to someone. Oh, I know. It was Sherry, oh God, what's her name? But she was Family Matters back in the day. She's now grown. Sherry something. I'll figure it out in a minute. But anyway, so she's grown now. She's doing something, and she's back in the movie. She was started out as a child actor. So I'm interviewing her, and her uncle calls in to say hi. He loves what she's doing, support, yada, yada, yada. Come to find out, the uncle wrote all of television darn near in the 70s and 80s growing up. The Partridge Family, all the Green Acres, all of that stuff. This is like the writer, the guy who wrote all this stuff is on the line. And I'm like, you can't script that, So having that happen is why I love radio, because you never know what's going to happen each night.
Right. It's totally it seems to be totally one of those things. It's spontaneous.
It really is. It really is.
Now, so within your whole radio career, I guess, was it you're young, I'm going to be a radio guy? Were you a little kid and listening to the radio and so that's what you wanted to do, or?
Oh God, no. I never thought I'd be in radio or television or anything that had to do with being in that kind of context with people. I didn't think I was interesting enough, and I didn't think I could pull it off, to be quite honest. It's not anything in my DNA that I would have saw, man, you'd be really good at that. I thought ultimately I'd be a teacher in some way, shape, or form, and not necessarily conventionally in a classroom, but teaching, instructing something. Again, it came by happen chance, just thought, listening and saying, okay, I'll try it. And then I fell in love with it.
So you really didn't have anyone in radio that you looked up to then at all then? You just...
Not at all. Listen, I didn't know anything about radio except for it played music in the car. That's it. Talk radio. I didn't listen to talk radio. I take that back. I listened to Don Imus, and I fell in love with him back in the day before he got in a big scandal and moved to satellite radio. But I was a Don Imus fanatic, but I never thought I could do what Don Imus does. And I still can't. I'm nowhere in that realm. Don't, anybody ever think that I'm saying I could even be Don Imus's shoe clerk, because this guy did this for his life, and he was very funny and very witty and quick-witted. However, when I got in it, I realized it was really about just being you. It wasn't, when you say radio personality, you're not trying to be someone else. You're just being good at being you. And right. People either get it or they don't. And so I was like, oh, I can be me. I got this job. And so that was what was really cool about it. I didn't have to be anything but what I am anyways. So who people see, or in this case here on radio, is exactly the dude that goes to the grocery store or goes to his son's basketball game. I'm that dude.
Right. Same person.
Same guy.
Every single time. That's wonderful to know. So we're going through the radio and things like this, and you got this going on. You find out this is what you're going to do. We know there's problems that's going to come up. Is there any kind of advice that you could give to other kids that are trying to get their things going, whether they're adult trying to get their stuff going, whether they're young and they're trying to get, because like, again, you didn't really know that you were going to do radio.
Right.
So like keeping that open brain, like, is there anything that you could give to the other people, because like you're successful in it, you're doing quite well with it. And can you give some advice for these people that are going to try to do this, or people that are looking just to even be entrepreneurs at all? Could you give us some advice?
So my advice that I give, no matter where I'm talking to, if I'm talking to middle school, high schoolers, college students, or grown people with jobs and a bunch of kids who are interested in this new phenomenon, this platform of online radio or podcasts, as some people have, is that it's hard work. It is really about being a megaphone for something that you're already doing. I find the best shows are people who talk about things that they do anyway, or talk about things that they're passionate about anyways. It is not a hobby. So I love sports, but I'm not going to do a sports show because I like sports. Okay, that's not really what I'm passionate about. I didn't play sports in high school or college or any of that. So that would just be a hobby. And radio is not a hobby. Radio is a profession. Podcasting, whether it's on YouTube, podcasting, whether it's on any one of these VTR platforms, or Spreaker has a platform. It, to me, if you're going to do it and you're thinking about doing it for a long term or being good at it, is a job. It is your job to be good. And so I just advise you to think about it before you jump in. Don't make it a bucket list. Hey, I always wanted to have a radio show, because listen, there are times, like we talked about earlier, when you're sick or just don't feel like it. There are times when 7 p.m. on Wednesday comes up and I'm like, oh God, really? Could a storm hit and just block out the internet and then I can blame that? I go through that. But something happens when that station clicks on and it says SRN, and I'm like, yeah, let's do this. Because I am genuinely passionate about this 24/7. I interview and talk to people all day, whether it's red carpet events, whether it's the mayor downtown saying he's going to do something and we're holding his feet to the fire to make sure he does it. I love media. When I say I am media, I'm dead serious about that. So this is something that I do because I'm passionate about it. It's not a hobby. So my advice to you is, if you're going to jump in this realm, then be passionate about it. And you really can take that as an entrepreneur. You should do that anyway. If you're going to open up a bakery, don't open up a bakery because you saw somebody else make money in bakery. Or, hey, you know what? I'm good at making donuts. If you're not passionate about it, you're going to fail anyway, so don't do it. That's my advice.
I think that's the most powerful advice. You might as well be passionate if you're going to do it. Why do it any otherwise? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, work a job that you hate or do something you hate. Like, I mean, if you don't like shoveling horse crap, I don't suggest you go get a job shoveling horse crap out of a barn. It's just one of those kinds of things that I don't know. I guess sometimes it's over the head. But wow, that's powerful. So before we get to the end of the show, I wanted to show everyone your Blog Talk Radio YouTube account, as well as the Blog Talk account, as well as the website. So if everyone is looking into the channel, when you come across this video, I want you all to make sure that you go through these platforms that you can check some more of Klarque Garrison's content out at. I'm going to go ahead and get the screen share on. While I do the screen share, Klarque, if you want to just go ahead and give us a rundown when you see the screen, and just walk us through what you see, and tell us what you want us to see anyway.
You got it.
Here we are. Boom. All right. We are at the website. So this is our comprehensive site. This has all of the 34 shows that are on there. It's content driven. It is kind of our version of a news site. So there's a lot of information on there that you'll get on that website. You could be on that website playing around for hours. So it's upcoming events, things we've covered. What else? Like I said, a big bio on everything that we've done, links to our social media, current events. We've got a book club session on there.
if you want to look at the guests that we've had on our network over the last 6 years, you can find that as well. Some of the more prominent ones, there's a page on there as well. So it's a bunch of stuff. We've also got a blog on there, which, we have writers that come on and talk about subjects all around the world. So, and those are right. What you're looking at now are some of our live remote correspondents. We are a news media house, so we have our credentials. Those are just some of the people that go out and cover stories for us and bring us back. This is our blog. A lot of our senior writers are all over the United States, and when they see something that's great or positive is what we focus on, they send those articles in, and we post them here.
All right. I guess we'll try. We'll click this one, the SNR Book Club.
Yeah, these are just a lot of authors who've come on our shows. We will put their information in this section, and some of them have paid to have their books promoted, and then we also promote books that we just think are pretty cool. So combination of that.
That's very nice. Here's the contact. We'll go ahead and go to the contact here. Boom. Here we are.
Yep. So if you're interested in being a guest on any one of the shows, you can look through the shows list on one of those pages. Put your information in here. If you're looking to intern, put your information here. If you're looking to actually have your own show and you want to see how that process works, put your information here.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. I'm going to go ahead and take us right over to the YouTube page. Bam, here we are, pulled up on it.
There we go. So we've done this is kind of my little pride page here. We've really done some work in the last year and a half of putting content out on this page as it uploads. I think we've got over 700 videos on this page, and it ranges from events that we've covered. If you see right there, that's the 2016 presidential coverage that we did. We did 6 hours live on radio covering that. We had reporters in DNC, in Detroit, and we had some in Florida, as well as Ohio and Pennsylvania. So we had just as much live coverage and updated information as anyone out there. We covered events, that's Golf Women, and that was actually in Atlanta, but we've just recently covered it in DC. There's a bunch of stuff on there. Guests that have been on our shows. I cover events around the Atlanta area, like I think there's Layla Hathaway. We were asked to cover her concert as media, so we've done that. There's tons of stuff, tons of people that I get the chance to really sit down and have in-depth conversations with, and you'll have like really short 3 to 5 minute videos of those particular interviews.
Very nice, very nice, very nice. I'm going to go ahead and take us to the Blog Talk Radio Network, which is the survival radio network on Blog Talk.
There you go. Again, this is our station on BTR. BTR is just who we buy our time from. We actually have 3 channels. This is the main hub, or as the original SRN 1, as we call it. And if you were to land on this site, I think we have on this station maybe 12 of the 34 shows that broadcast here, and on-demand section is simply shows that are now in podcast. So once you see on-demand, if you scroll endlessly, you'll see show after show after show, and you'll see the name of the show, like that's Gays PSA, Wellness Blueprint, the Paula G Show, and you click on those things, it'll be in podcast, and you can hear those individual shows.
Powerful stuff there. Powerful stuff. Good stuff there. I'm going to go ahead and take us back to the regular screen here. Stop the screen share. Boom. And we're in there. That is very nice. That was pretty. That's a lot of stuff to cover inside there. Now as far as platforms and having different social media sites, could you give us some what do you suggest? Do you suggest having How many social media sites do you suggest? Which ones do you suggest people should use to market their content? Facebook, Instagram, which ones do you use and which ones do you the best?
So, I'm a big follower and fan of Gary Vaynerchuk, as he likes to say, and having followed the school of Gary V, I'm on all of it. My thing is content. every site has its own magic, and you'll find there's a different audience for all of them. So if you start choosing, I'm only going to do Twitter, I'm only going to do Facebook, you have just cut off your arm or your leg or your right arm or your head or your knee. You're cutting off access to people, which, by the way, guys, it's free.
Right.
So when people start talking about how can I grow my show, I only have 12 listeners. I ask them, well, how many social media sites you're on? Well, I don't really like social media. Well, there's your answer.
It's like boom, right in the face.
We're in 2016, and you don't like the as Gary says, this is really cool the way he does this. He picks up his phone, right, and he says, you know what? You see Twitter, you see Facebook, do you see Snapchat? Do you see? And he said, this is ABC, NBC, CBS,
right.
our year. So when we were growing up, we looked at TV, and TV is where we got our information from. Well, guess what? That's gone. Those days are just about dead. They're throwing dirt on them. But now how people are getting their information is YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram. That is our TV of the future. So if you're not on TV, how's anyone ever going to know about you if you want to be in front of masses of people? So the answer to that, the quick answer is I'm on all of it. And I rock all of it just as hard. It takes time, but that's why I'm an entrepreneur. Everyone isn't cut out to be one. So I don't whine about, oh, I need a social media staff. No, I do it all, because I want to be at the first line of level of content and meeting people like you, Montez. If I had 3 go-betweeners, we would probably not have met, right? But when you hit me up, it was me. I was like, hey, okay, great. Let's do it.
You know what? This is so aggravating. I deal with that a whole lot. Now, some people I can't say who I think Bob Berg, he had a go-in-betweener, a lady that did the middle with inside the booking, and it worked out great. That's the only guy that I've ever had that worked out good within the in-between things. But usually when I reach out to someone, if they don't respond, I usually tend to think that it's because it was someone else relaying the message. Versus if I that's why if I can get their personal account, they follow me, I'm inboxing right there. Boom. Hey, can we connect? You know what I mean? Can we connect? I don't want to talk to Joey or Jamie, the one that sets it up. I want to be with the real deal right here, and I think that helps out a whole lot too.
It's one of the reasons why I know I'm probably going to beat you. You listening to this right now who's trying to, if you think you're in competition with me, which you shouldn't be, we should be collaborating. But I know how the nature of people is, hey, I can be better than SRN. You can't, because you aren't going to want to do what we do. And I'm telling you, this is what we do. So part of the machine is I get out of the house every day. I'm always on I've got a microphone in somebody's face probably every day. I'm on social media all the time. That's why we have these things called phones that we can travel with. I don't need to just do it at 6 o'clock every day. I can do it when I want. And I think that is the power that has pushed us in such a short time to really be the face. What I perceive, I think we are the face. Our network is the face of media, how it's going to be perceived. We're at least one of the platforms that people are like, wow, that's new. That's what people are doing now. So, hey,
I tell you what, you gave me a good hour full of some information. I know that everybody else is going to be able to take it in and do well with it. Before we get off, I want you to ask, I kind of like Gary Vee, his whole Daily V thing, and I definitely wanted to take it in. Before we get off, I want you to ask a question to the audience and have them answer the question for you. I like to take the videos, edit them back down. And so if the guest asks the question in the next video that I upload, I'll put the questions in there or whatever. I've been working on that for some time now. I think I have 3 questions within like 3 other different interviews done already, but I want to get like 4 or 5 of them put together and then make like a one episode that's like 10 minutes long or whatever with the questions from the guests. Or
sure.
But anyway, since you get the point, do you have a question to ask the audience?
I absolutely do. It's my favorite question I like to speak with people on it's this. So I'll try to set it up and be very brief. So looking at you guys, if age were not an issue, if time was not an issue, if age was not an issue, if money were not an issue, if demographics was not an issue, if location was not an issue, okay, who would you be in this world? Who would you do? Who would you be right now? And that's, to me, that I wake up every day to make sure I'm in the bounds of that, because we tend to be who our parameters and guidelines make us be. Like, I really want to do that, but I can't because I'm too old, or I'm not old enough, or I'm not rich enough. So I say take all of those barriers off, and who would you be at that moment? And that's my question to you guys. Figure out who you would be right now under the circumstances that you're in now. I don't want to, once I get a better job, once I move, or once I get out of this bad relationship, or, once I get more money, or once I get in shape, who would you be right now? And my challenge to you is to start being it right now. Start doing that right now, not tomorrow, not when you get more money, right now. And what happens is, and I know I'm answering my own question, I apologize, but what happens is you start becoming that and you don't even know it. So when I wanted to be a radio show, and I didn't know anything about radio, I didn't say, well, once I go to school and learn journalism, and once I learned technology, because I wasn't technologically savvy back then, I just started being it. And 6 years now, people actually mistakenly call, they're like, hey, that guy's in radio. I'm like looking around like, oh yeah, I am. Who knew?
Right.
So that's my question. Who would you be if there were no variables in life to tell you couldn't be that?
Powerful stuff. Klarque Garrison, thank you so much for being on the show today. I'd like if you'd stay on when we end the show, and I'll speak to you a little bit before we get off the show. But ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it right here from Klarque Garrison. He's spoken a lot on Survival Network Radio and exactly how it came about. The pros and not the pros and the cons, but the advance you through whatever it is that you're doing and what took him through what he was doing, some of the situations that he dealt with and how he overcame the situation. So within this interview, I know that there's going to be lots of information that you're going to be able to take and use on the daily. And like I said, if it's not within, you're trying to create your own radio networking service, it might be you apply this towards your blog. You might apply this towards like everyday life. You might apply this towards picking your friends. You can apply this anywhere. And that's what we do here on itsmontez.com. We bring people on that got powerful conversation, powerful topics, powerful things that you can relate to and you can use it within your life, whether or not it's on the subject of the matter or if it's totally opposite of it. Anyway, Klarque Garrison, thank you so much for being on.
Montez, pleasure's mine, man. Thank you for asking me to come on.
Ladies and gentlemen, itsmontez.com. Thank you so much for tuning in.